Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. So my name is Hadif Azad Subahari, and today I will be presenting about my case study on the impact of bilingualism on children's language development. So this study focuses on how children develop language skills when they are exposed to two languages from an early age. So in this presentation, I will first explain the background and purpose of the study, followed by the case description, key findings, and theoretical framework. And after that, a linguistic development and the significance of study, implication, and also the conclusion. So overall, this presentation will not only describe this study, but also evaluate how bilingualism shapes children's learning. So let's start with the background. So the background of my case study, into this globalized world, bilingualism and multilingualism are becoming increasingly common. Many children are exposed to more than one language from a very young age, especially through their home environment, school system, and even digital media. Because as you can see, children nowadays are keen to use social media more than the adults. So for example, a child may speak one language at home with their family and another language in their school with their teachers and friends. So this situation creates a bilingual or even multilingual environment. Now this raises an important question. Does learning multiple languages help or affect children's development? Some people believe that bilingualism may confuse children or slow down their learning. However, others argue that it is actually provides cognitive and linguistic advantage. So this is why studying bilingual children is important, because it helps us to understand how language development really works in real life context. So let's move on into purpose. So the purpose of this study is to examine the impact of bilingualism on children's language development. More specifically, the student focuses on children aged 5 to 6 years old, which is an important stage for language acquisition. At this age, children are actively developing vocabulary, sentence structure, and communication skill. So the study also aims to analyze how different factors such as home environment, school setting, and social interaction influence language learning. In addition, it also tries to determine whether bilingualism has positive or negative effect on children's development. So the main goal is not just to observe, but to understand how and why bilingual children develop language in certain ways. So now let's move on to the case description. So this case study involves 46 children who are studying in an international school. So these children are exposed to two languages in their daily life, which is Arabic and English. Arabic is mainly used at home, while English is used in school as the medium of instruction. So most of the children started learning English at around the age of 3, which means they had early exposure to second language. So this is important because early exposure plays a key role in language development. In addition, the children come from similar background, which makes the study more reliable because it reduces external differences. So overall, this case provides a clear example of how bilingual children develop language in a structured and consistent environment. So let's move into the key finding. Now, about the key findings of the study. One of the most important findings is that bilingualism does not have negatively affect children's language development. This is important because many people assume that learning two languages may confuse children. However, the study shows that children are able to develop both languages effectively when they receive enough exposure. For example, children in this study were able to communicate in both Arabic and English depending on the context. In addition, early exposure to English helped them improve their proficiency over time. So instead of being a problem, bilingualism actually becomes a strength in language development. So let's move on into the language context. So the language context in this study, there is a clear separation between the use of Arabic and English. Arabic is used at home, while English is used in school. This separation helps children associate each language with a specific environment. For example, when they are at home, they automatically use Arabic, and when they are in school, they switch to English. So this reduces confusion and helps them manage both languages more effectively. So language context acts as a guide that helps children organize their language use. Now, let's take a look at learner context. The learner context refers to individual factors such as confidence, motivation, and language preference. Children may feel more confident using their first language because it is familiar and comfortable. However, their motivation to use English increases in school because it is necessary for communication and learning. For example, if a child wants to participate in class or communicate with friends, they need to use English. This encourages them to practice the language more frequently. So, emotional and psychological factors play a major role in how children develop their language skills. So, what about the learning context? Moving on to the learning context, the classroom environment plays a very important role in language development. In this case, English is used as the medium of instruction, which means children are constantly exposed to the language. And the classroom environment is structured for active language use, which is mean teacher also use interactive teaching methods such as group discussion and collaborative activities. For example, students may work together to complete tasks, share ideas, or solve problems using English. So, the teacher guidance support comprehension and language accuracy. And this learning content reinforce formal language development. This allows them to practice language skills in a meaningful way. So, learning happens more effectively when students are actively involved and not just passively listening. So, what about home, peer, and school context? So, the role of home, peer, and school environment is very important in shaping children's language development. First, let's look at the home environment. At home, children are mainly exposed to Arabic, which helps them build a strong foundation in their first language. For example, when parents communicate daily using Arabic, whether during meals, conversation, or even simple instruction, children are constantly receiving language input. And this continuous exposure is important because language development happens through repetition and meaningful interaction. In this case, the home environment does not only support language learning, but also emotional development because children clearly associate their first language with comfort and identity. Now, Moving on to the peer interaction. And of course, peer in children is very important because this is where they speak without any pressure, without any instruction. In school, children interact with their peers using English. This is important because peer communication is more natural compared to teacher instruction. For instance, when children play together or work in groups, they use English to express ideas, ask questions, or even solve problems. So this kind of interaction help improve fluency because they are using the language in real situation and not just memorizing vocabulary. And finally, the school environment. School environment provides structured learning. Teachers guide students, correct their mistakes, and provide activities that encourage communication. So, when we combine these three contexts, home, peer, and school, we can see that each one contributes differently but supports overall development. In simple terms, children learn language best when they use it and not just study it. So let's look at the theoretical framework. So the theoretical framework, as you can see, the study is supported by important learning theories, particularly those proposed by Lev Vygotsky and Stephen Krashen. So Vygotsky provide social interaction and CPD, which is the guided interaction and scaffolding, and supported by Krashen, which put the input, hypothesis, and comprehensible input. So the children develop language when they interact with teachers and peers. Example, during classroom discussion or activities, children learn how to communicate and express ideas. And then the Krashen's input hypothesis explain that language acquisition occurs when learners are exposed to meaningful and understandable input. In this case, the classroom provides continuous input in English, which helps children improve their proficiency. So this theory shows that language is not learned alone, but through interaction and exposure. So as you can see, language education process meaningful learning through interaction and exposure, which resulted in effective language use in real communication. So let's move on into the next slide, which is the linguistic development. So the linguistic development are one of the most important point is that bilingual children do not always develop both language equally. This depends on how often they are exposed to each language. For example, a child may speak Arabic fluently at home but may be stronger in reading and writing in English because of school exposure. So this does not mean that they are weak in one language, but rather their skills are distributed across two languages. They are separated, which is because of their environment, because of how they use it daily. Another aspect is vocabulary development. Children tend to learn vocabulary based on context. For instance, they may know words like kitchen, family, or food in Arabic, but academic terms like science or experiment in English because of how they use it in school. This shows that their vocabulary is divided, not lacking. In addition, bilingual children often use code switching. This means they switch between languages when speaking. Instead of seeing this as a mistake, we should understand that this reflects their ability to manage multiple languages. And this is actually shows flexibility and not confusion. Furthermore, bilingual children develop what we call metalinguistic awareness. This means they understand how language works at a deeper level. As a result, they are often better at problem solving and adapting to different situations. Now, moving on to the significance of the study. So, one of the most important contributions of this study is that it challenges a common misconception. Many people believe that bilingualism may confuse children or slow down their development. However, this study clearly shows that this is not true. Children are able to develop their both languages effectively when they receive enough exposure. Another important point is early exposure. Children who are introduced to a second language at a young age tend to develop better pronunciation and fluency. For example, children in this started learning English at around age 3, which gave them enough time to adapt naturally. So, in addition, the study highlight the importance of environment, language development, and it's not only about intelligence, but also about the support systems around the child. In other words, environment shapes ability. So, therefore, this study provides a strong evidence that bilingualism is beneficial when supported properly. So let's take a look at the implication. So first, for teachers should use interactive teaching methods rather than focusing only on textbooks. For example, group discussion, storytelling, and classroom activities allow students to practice language actively. So this is important because students learn better when they are involved, not just listening. For parents, their role is equally important. Parents should continue using the home language while also encouraging exposure to second language. For instance, simple activities like reading books, watching educational videos, or having daily conversation can make a big difference. School also should not create a balanced environment where both languages are respected. This helps students feel more confidence and reduce risk of language imbalance. So lastly, the community plays a role by promoting multilingual environment. Language development is not an individual effort but a shared responsibility. So when all of these factors work together, children can fully benefit from bilingualism. So now I want to talk about the challenges of bilingualism. So it is one of more, I can say, critical perspective, which is the bilingualism has many benefits, but I think it is important to understand that it also comes with certain challenges. So one of the common language challenge in language imbalance is language imbalance. So this happens when one language becomes stronger than the other, usually due to differences in exposure. For example, in this study, children may become more proficient in English because it is used in school daily, while Arabic may become less dominant over time. Another challenge is code switching in formal situations. While code switching is a natural ability, it may sometimes affect accuracy, especially in academic settings where one language is expected. So, in addition, children may develop a preference for one language over the other because sometimes kids they tend to feel more confidence or some kids may feel more confidence in speaking Arabic, which is their mother tongue, because they use it at home with their mother and parents. But there are some kids they prefer English because it makes them simply look smart. So this is one of the unspoken things about, because as you can see, kids they like to show off. So one of them maybe love to speak in English just because they want to show off. So this can be influenced by social factors such as wanting to be fit in with peers or adapting to the school environment. So This shows that bilingualism requires balance and not just exposure. Overall, these challenges highlight the need for proper support from both home and school environment. So, another thing is that language attitudes. So, language attitudes is not just a tool for communication, but it is also closely connected to a person's identity. In this case, Arabic represent cultural background, family connection, and emotional expression. On the other hand, English is often associated with education, social interaction, and global communication. This creates a situation where children may develop different attitude toward each other, toward each language. For example, a child may prefer to use English in school to feel more confident or to fit in with friends. However, at home, they may switch back to Arabic when communicating with family members. This shows that language choice is not random, but it is influenced by social and emotional factors. Therefore, understanding language attitude is important because it affects of how often and how effectively children use each language. So, the impact of bilingualism is useful to actually compare bilingual children with monolingual children. So monolingual children are exposed to only one language, which allows them to focus fully on developing that language. In contrast, bilingual children are exposed to two or more languages, which requires them to manage multiple linguistic systems. So, instead of being limited, bilingual children often develop broader communication skills, but also this combination makes them look complex. So, the recommendations for the children are one of the recommendation that can be used is for educators. First, for educators, based on the findings of the study, several strategies can be suggested for educators. First, teacher should use interactive teaching methods that encourage active participation. For example, group discussion, role-playing, and collaborative tasks that allow students to practice language in meaningful ways. Secondly, teachers should provide scaffolding, which means giving support to help students gradually improve their language skills. This can include guiding questions, visual aids, or simplified explanation. In addition, teachers should create a safe and inclusive classroom environment where students feel confident to use both languages. So, when students feel comfortable, they are more willing to take risks in using language. Therefore, effective teaching strategies plays a crucial role in supporting bilingual development. So, other than teacher, parents also play an important role, crucial in supporting children's language development. At home, parents should continue using their first language consistently to maintain a strong foundation. At the same time, they can encourage exposure to second language through simple activities. For example, parents can read bilingual storybook, have daily conversation, or allow children to watch educational programs in English. These small actions can be significantly improve language skills over time. So, language learning does not require complex methods but consistent practice. Therefore, parental support is essential in ensuring balanced bilingual development. So, in conclusion, this case study, shows that bilingualism has a positive impact on children's language development when it is supported by proper exposure and development and environment. So children are capable of developing multiple languages without confusion as long as they receive consistent input and support. Factors such as home, environment, peer interaction, and school context all play important roles in shaping language proficiency. In addition, understanding challenges and providing appropriate strategies can further enhance bilingual development. So, bilingualism should not be seen as a difficulty, but as an opportunity to enrich children's cognitive and linguistic abilities. Finally, a collaboration between educators, parents, and the community is essential for ensure balanced and effective language development. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. So have a good day, and again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hadi Faizat Besar Bahari from TSLB PISMP 24th 25 29. Assalamualaikum.